Talking baseball, baseball and the O's.
Welcome back, Birdland, to another episode of the Talkin Orioles Baseball Podcast. I'm your host, Benny Becker, and we have a fantastic episode to fill you guys in on today. Been a couple days, so we got 2 games to catch you up on. Yesterday was an off day, luckily, but we still got a ton to talk about. Basically, how the Orioles have began the season, talk a little more about Ramon Urias, check in on Norfolk and just continuing their domination, and we'll get to that. Talk about the upcoming series against Pittsburgh as we travel to Pittsburgh for our first road series of the season, beginning at about 4 o'clock today. And then Cionel Perez, we want to update you on his injury as well, along with a bunch of other points that we'll be sure to talk about. So let's just jump right in, gang. Catch you up on Tuesday's loss against the Royals. It was a 4-1 loss, and it was a cold, rainy night. In fact, both of these games were in cold, rainy conditions. And you could tell that they really were trying to get this game in on Tuesday, especially, just because I feel like it was raining, not downpouring, but like raining steadily the entire game. Whereas Wednesday's game that we'll get to was just cold and wet, but they waited out most of the day for the rain to pass. And so there was some like precipitation, but ultimately Tuesday was a rainy game, at least from my viewpoint. I wasn't at the yard. I was on my couch at home watching the games, comfortable, warm, dry. But yeah, so they were cold, rainy games, and you're going to get that, especially early in this April stretch. First week or 2 of April tends to be on the colder, rainier, wetter side as far as the Northeast goes. Certainly also like the northern Midwestern teams. And those are tough conditions to play baseball in, man. Now, I don't want to overstate it because both teams are playing in it, right? There's no real advantage or disadvantage, especially when it's 2 teams that naturally play outdoors in not necessarily the nicest weather in their cities, between Baltimore and Kansas City. Kansas City can wind up getting a little nasty and cold at times too, and also very, very hot during the summer. So again, there's no advantage, there's no real disadvantage, but it's just certainly tough to play in those conditions, especially early when you're still tweaking here and there, when you're still getting ramped up into the season. Now, before I even get into the games, I do want to make the point of this is similar conditions, though, that they're going to play postseason games in, especially, again, if they're playing in Baltimore or one of these other Northeast or Midwest type deals, especially in an outdoor stadium. So it's stuff that you have to learn how to play in if you want to be successful in the postseason, most likely. Not a guarantee you have any tough weather games in the postseason, but a good chance. Once you start hitting October and even possibly November, I mean, weather's not getting any prettier in Baltimore around that time. So they have to learn how to play. And again, it's a little harder, I feel like, when you're still ramping up into the season and getting your feet under you. Even if you've been performing well so far, it's still not the easiest conditions to play in, right? So let's just dig into the 2 games. The loss will probably run through a little quicker than the win. Both games, though, I don't think we're going to spend a tremendous amount of time on. Maybe certain points we wind up getting a little off kilter and get a little rampage going about a certain topic. We'll see. We'll see what happens. But going back to that Tuesday 4-1 loss against the Royals, the Orioles only had 3 hits all day. 2 were from Cowser, 1 was from Westberg. Each had a double. In fact, that's how the Orioles manufactured their only run, was back-to-back doubles by Cowser and Westberg. Now, in fact, it was flip. Westberg's above Cowser in the lineup. So, from Westberg and then from Cowser. And listen, I'll just get into it. It's not the best RBI double that you're ever going to see. He kind of cued it off the end of the bat. Third baseman was playing farther away from the line, and it was one of those that felt like no matter how much ground the third baseman made up and no matter how slow the ball seemed to be going, it just was always like gravitationally staying away from the third baseman, right? And finding itself in this dead zone, allowing him to get to second base for the double. But in no way was it a pretty RBI double at all. Now, when it comes to Colton Cowser, I'm not going to nit and pick. In fact, the way the baseball gods work sometimes is in this sort of way. When you're running hot and you're feeling good, those are the type of balls that seem to just stray away from a defender, no matter how ugly it might have been. And you wind up with an extra base hit as well, no matter how kind of ugly and undeserving maybe that looks, right? And when things aren't going well, it starts going the other way, and you start getting robbed of great base hits. You're hitting the ball 111, and this guy finds a way to the ball, or even it's hit directly at the fielder. And that's kind of how baseball works sometimes. It's funny how that feeling carries when things are good and things are running well. Good things happen. And when things are tough and you're in a slump or a tough stretch, you're not getting that luck. You're not getting that benefit. So that was really all the Orioles were able to put up. The Royals put up 3 in the second inning, 1 in the fourth, really extending that lead early. And it's something we saw in this Kansas City series, the Royals being able to put up multiple runs early in on the game. Now we'll get to how ultimately the series worked out. But yeah, it wasn't great. It wasn't the best game to watch. It wasn't the funnest game to watch. In fact, from an Orioles perspective, it kind of stunk. But there are some positives, right? Again, 2 hits from Cowser, one of which, might have been that lucky extra base hit. But still, either way, still getting hits in his opportunities. Westberg also getting a hit in that opportunity. And we know he was coming off of that Westy walk-off that he got in game 1, right? In fact, he actually had an opportunity late in the game, I believe in the 9th, and he could have had another walk-off, and it didn't happen. That's all right. That's all right. When you look at the pitching, though, because let's look at the pitching. We know they gave up 4 runs early. So you think, again, it wasn't the best start, similar to maybe a Tyler Wells start when he pitched. But Cole Irvin, who we've heard great stuff about this offseason and spring training, how came in much better shape. His velocity was up. He's really focused on reworking his body, reworking his work ethic, and putting in the work on the field and off the field and really making strides in his diet and, again, workout plan and these things that gave a lot of promise that Cole Irvin might step up. Heck, he was one of the pitchers, along with Tyler Wells and a couple other names, that I thought could be a surprise Cy Young candidate, at least at some point early or to halfway through the season. Maybe not projecting that it's going to carry the whole way, like I'm kind of projecting what Tyler Wells could do, but Cole Irvin is a professional major league pitcher, and he's had nice runs in his past that gave you some promise that it is possible in his new dedication and his new physique and his improved velocity that we could see even improved results for an extended period of time. And again, not the easiest day to pitch. Cold, rainy. In fact, I feel like those kind of are somewhat of the days that it's even easier to hit a slower pitching lefty. And that sounds kind of stupid and crazy, but sometimes when it's hot, those lefties, even the slower ones, that ball's moving a little better. Feel like with the dampness and on the ball's moving a little heavier, and it's becomes a little easier to hit, especially a lefty that throws a little softer. And that is just purely my feeling and my instincts telling me that. I have zero analytics or numbers to back that claim, folks. I've always felt that personally. I'm somebody who, while I was never very good at baseball, I always struggled against left-handers, even in seasons when I was feeling really good and performing really good. So, and again, I never played at a high level. I never really was much, if any, of a baseball talent other than made up in my mind. But I always felt it was a little easier to hit those lefties playing in a little wetter conditions. And again, in those, the defenders move a little slower and you find ways to, just like Kowser did on his double, maybe have an ugly ball make its way through the infield more than that happens maybe in the summer in nice, hot, dry conditions. Anyway, so Cole Irvin's official line on that day, 5 innings pitched, 7 hits, 2 walks, so a lot of runners, 9 runners in those 5 innings. But again, only the 4 earned runs and 3 Ks. Nothing special. But again, very tough conditions to be pitching in, right? And it didn't look that way on the Royals side because certainly they shut us down. Again, 3 hits between 2 guys. The rest of the guys went hitless. It sucks and it's tough. But I also believe, and I have a quote from Ryan O'Hearn, that, again, there was just some bad luck in that game, right, for the Orioles' perspective, where, to quote O'Hearn, we hit a lot of balls hard, but just right at guys. And it was true. It's true. And sometimes that's going to happen in baseball. That's literally the nature of the beast. So I don't want to overreact to the idea that the Royals pitchers were able to shut us down, whereas Cole Irvin wasn't necessarily able to shut them down. Again, while he gave up a lot of runners, he only let 4 throughout 5 innings, right? He only let 4 in through 5 innings. And still, that in and of itself is slightly impressive. It's a trend I feel like we've seen from these Orioles pitchers at times where they're able to get themselves in jams, give up 1 or 2 runs, get out of the inning before it becomes catastrophic, before it's more than like 3 runs, let's say. And the starters especially able to give up that like 3-run inning, let's call it, and then maybe another run an inning or 2 later, but continuing to stay in the game and continuing to get out of the inning and come back for another inning successfully. Because I feel like that's a trend we've seen from the Orioles starters, that their last inning isn't the inning that they get beat up in, right? Like, oftentimes starting pitchers go until it's broke, which what I mean by that is they will, even if they give up a run here or there, the last inning they pitch, let's say they got through 5 with only giving up 1 or 2 runs. Well, and then in that 6th, they get an out, but then they wind up giving 3 runs up, and that's when they get pulled after 5 1/3. We're seeing a lot of even innings for these Orioles in the sense of it's 5 innings, it's 6 innings, it's 7 innings. So, like, they're getting through the innings that they have problems in, and they're staying in the game and continuing to be successful as they go back out there. So, very encouraging stuff, even from, like, a mediocre stat line that Cole Irvin gave us on that Tuesday. Truly, I'm a big believer that that's what you need from your starting pitching. Sure, the Corbin Burns and the Grayson Rodriguez, more often than not, and when Bradish gets back, him too, you can lump him into those 3, that more often than not, on those days, you need a great pitching performance, or that's what you're expecting with those sort of aces, right? But when it comes to the Kremers, the Irvins, even my guy Tyler Wells, I just need that to be your bad day, right? Give me 5 innings, 4 earned, keep us in the ball game. And again, it didn't matter on that Tuesday. We couldn't hit, and the balls we did hit were right at guys, or they made some nice plays on. It happens. You're not going to win all of them. But encouraging stuff from the starting pitching staff, really down the line, now that we've seen all 5 of them have 1 start under their belt, at least, then I believe this is a trend. And again, these are guys that are still ramping up. These are guys that are still getting their feet under them. And it's an opportunity for the bottom three, let's call them, while Means and hopefully soon after Bradish aren't back yet. Right? This is your opportunity. And frankly, those are the starts that go a long way if those become your bad starts. Now, if that's the good start, I can live with that out of a fourth, fifth starter. But ultimately, that's not going to hold your spot when we get Means and Bradish back. I need that being your poor start. And I think that that's very possible. Again, very tough night to pitch. Although, if you look at our bullpen, maybe not the case, right? So I'm just going to lump the three relievers together. They all had very nice days. You have Dylan Tate, Jacob Webb, and Heasley. Not positive on his first name off the top of my dome. Relatively new to the team. In fact, that was his first start. My brain wants to say Adam. Then I'm like, I feel like it's not Adam. So we'll just call him Heasley. And Heasley pitched for the Royals the last few years. So it was kind of funny him getting back into Major League Baseball against the Royals. I talked that maybe it was some gamemanship about maybe trying to pull some knowledge and information about the Royals and their thought process at the plate, on the mound, from Heasley. Either way, though, the way he pitched, if you keep pitching like that, you're going to find yourself in the majors longer, frankly, if that's what you do with your opportunity, because he had himself really a great, great day. I believe 2 innings, no hits, no walks, 2 Ks. Good day. Now, combined between Tate, Webb, and Heasley, like I said, you had 4 innings combined, only 1 hit, 1 walk. Both were given up by Tate. So again, Webb had himself a hitless and walkless day as well. 6 Ks combined, no runs. Now, Brandon Hyde just summed it up real easy. They threw the ball great. That's what he talked about. They threw the ball great, and they did. Especially Dylan Tate, who we saw, I think it was opening day, get banged up a little when he came out, or at least just not be able to pitch up to his level. You saw the stuff was there, but the accuracy and it just didn't come together. He ran a lot of deep counts. I believe he walked maybe a couple guys. So it was great to see him be lights out. Again, he gave up the walk and the hit. So again, not perfect by any means. But overall, you see why he's so tough. And hopefully, once he gets out of these cold, wet, rainy days like opening day and like this Tuesday, then he can excel. And then his control becomes a little bit better, and that just makes him all the more dangerous. And again, if Craig Kimbrell continues to have problems, which is possible, we only saw that one game so far, he is absolutely towards the top of the list, if not at the top of the list, in-house for a replacement. And that's all down the line, okay? So that's all really we have to talk about Tuesday. Again, 4-1 loss. Ultimately, you'll come to find out most losses I'm going to be talking less about. Now, if there's something glaring, if there are real issues at hand, I will extrapolate more, okay? It'll get me worked up. It'll get me going, and the whole damn episode might be about the loss and what happened, okay? But in these sort of losses, personally, I just feel like there's not a ton to talk about. It is what it is. Hit balls at guys. They found a way to get base hits out there and drive in some runs more than us. It happens. Now, in Wednesday's finale against the Royals, it was an interesting one. It was one that pretty much picked up where we left off on Tuesday. And for a while was looking like, damn, man. I'm not panicking about this team in the long run, but damn, this team's too good to do this over the stretch of 2 full games. And eventually, I was right in that the team is too good to be held down fully for 2 straight games. Ultimately, it was a 5-hour rain delay. Like I said, they waited out most of the weather. 5-hour rain delay. You want to talk about tough to perform, especially as a pitcher. Man, that is the definition to me of it. You are waiting all day to throw. You are waiting all day to get warm. It's just, even as a hitter, it's tough. I can't even imagine as a starting pitcher how tough it is. 5-hour delay. We got away most of the rain, but, there were certainly droplets and precipitation throughout the game. Definitely cold, though. You could see the breath on the player's face, like in front of the player's face when they talk or breathe. Like, definitely a cold day. Ended, though, on a fantastic note. Ended on a tremendous note, as James McCann had a walk-off as well. I had some stat about the walk-off. I lost it. It was basically like a team getting 2 walk-offs in their first 6 games has only happened X amount of times in the history of baseball. So it was cool. It was very cool. And it just shows you these Orioles not only are a tremendously talented team and one of the best teams in baseball, but also that they have absolutely no quit in them, right? A lot of teams, right? Baseball's so mental. A lot of teams would disappear on 2 cold, rainy nights, and after the first one of not being able to get any base hits down for the most part, and barely driving in a run. And then for most of the game, through 7 innings, only having 1 hit in that Wednesday game. No runs, 1 hit. It was an Adley Rutschman double. A lot of teams would go, man, it's early April. It is. I'm cold. I'm freezing. It's wet. I'm done, man. I'm done for the night. Clearly, this isn't our series. Clearly, this isn't our night. And just pack it in. That's never going to be these Baltimore Orioles. So get used to this because, again, they, I believe, led the league last year in comeback victories and 1-run victories. Well, they get their 3rd comeback victory. It's funny, I misspoke on last episode when I talked about Westie's walked off. I called that the first walk-off of the season. Or, excuse me, first comeback win of the season. I misspoke. I forgot that opening day, we went down 1-0 on Mike Trout in the first inning. And technically, that then became the first comeback win of the season. So this was actually our 3rd. Westie's walk-off was our 2nd. And this is what this team does. Again, I think we led the league last year in comeback wins and 1-run wins. This turned into the 1-run win, while Westie's walk-off became a 2-runner. This one was a 1-runner. And again, it was tough to watch for an Orioles fan to begin the game. Orioles, again, 1 hit, no runs, and Adley Rutschman double in the 4th through 7 innings. Down 3-0 through 7. They gave up 1 in the 1st, 1 in the 3rd, 1 in the 7th. It was 2 Sal Perez RBI singles and a Michael Garcia home run. Okay, solo home run. And to me, clearly that's not something to panic about. Giving up 3 runs on 2 RBI singles from a superstar veteran and a young promising player getting a solo home run. That's baseball. That's most nights in baseball. If you do that successfully and that's what you're giving up, you're going to win a lot of ball games. But obviously you need to hit, right? You need to hit. You need to have guys on to score runs, or at least hit a bunch of home runs, which they didn't do. So how did the rally start? And I'm going to take you through the whole rally. Again, after the top of the 8th, 3-0, and the Orioles are getting 1 hit. Then, to begin the 8th, you got a Kowser single, followed by James McCann double. McCann was really feeling himself, really has been feeling himself all season, which is tremendous to see. We know he's a great guy in the locker room, so at no point, even if his performance dips, am I talking about needing to replace him with a better backstop or backup backstop. But it's great to see him get out of the gate hot and have some big clutch moments for this team. which he has. Not just in this game, but previously as well. So, again, Cowser singles to lead off, McCann doubles. Gunnar with a sac fly, Adley with an RBI single. And ended up getting thrown out at second by Hunter Renfroe, and a great play by him. But either way, that got the Orioles on the board, okay? That got the Orioles two runs, making it a 3-2 game. And again, just this fight after literally all last game essentially, and through 7 innings of this game being not really able to hit a combined 4 hits in those 16 innings, it would be easy to pack it in. But these guys and this core doesn't stop. And again, it goes from young player trying to succeed in the majors, Colton Cowser, to veteran role player, James McCann, to your star young players, and really just 2 star players, Gunnar and Adley. So it's all over the board, which is a beautiful thing that the Orioles provide time in and time out, it seems. So then, the game winning, so then you have Yennier Cano come in for the top of the 9th. Again, how often do you see that the team battles itself back and gets within a run, and then in the 9th inning, their reliever just gives up another run or 2, and the other team can get it back? Yennier Cano made sure that did not happen. Quick 1-2-3 inning in the top of the 9th. Beautiful. And then good things happen when you get lead-off walks, right? So Ryan Mountcastle on the bottom of the 9th got a lead-off walk. Again, good things happen in baseball when you get a walk as a lead-off guy or with 2 outs. Good things tend to happen. Mountcastle walked. Santander singled. Westy laid down a successful sac bunt. Now, his first attempt was not successful, and then he had at least 1 or 2 where he pulled the bat back, but then finally gets down the sac bunt and just showing the ability to do whatever is needed in those moments, right? And Westberg is a perfect candidate to me of a guy that can do what we need him to do in those moments to succeed. So then they intentionally walked Hayes to get the bases loaded. Again, 1 out. Cowser struck out looking. And those are moments that he's going to need to improve on. But also, it wasn't a pretty at-bat, truly. First pitch was literally in the dirt, and he was swinging out of his shoes. Then, he ran the count a little deeper, but the ball he got struck out on, it was right down the middle. If I remember, it was a slider. Could be mistaken about that, but it was right there. And one of those things where, man, you got to be ready. What are you looking for? Where's your mind at that plate? And hopefully he can continue to improve in those areas. And more experience allows you not just more opportunities to succeed, but better opportunities to succeed, because you learn and you watch the video and you understand where you were at mentally in that moment that made it so you didn't succeed in that moment. So hopefully he can be better in those moments. But then it gets to 2 outs, Orioles down to their last out for James McCann, and he absolutely torches a ball. 110 exit velo, possibly the hardest hit ball he's had in his Orioles career. I know the announcers said that, or at least they seemed to say that it was. I didn't see any official numbers. Either way, definitely one of the hardest balls he's hit since being an Oriole, if not the hardest. And yeah, 2 RBI, game-winning single, drives in 2 guys, Mountcastle and Santander. Well, Santander had gotten pinch run for, so I believe Mullins was on the base paths for him to come in and score the game-winning run. And it's a beautiful thing. Listen, these Orioles nonstop fight, they nonstop go after it, and they never give up. And it's great to see it happening with every player essentially on the team. Every role, every type of player, they're just contributing. They really are. Except one name, I feel like, but we'll get to that. When you look at the pitching that day, this is what Corbin Burns brings to you, right? Because, again, not an easy day to pitch as far as weather-wise. Certainly not an easy day to pitch when you have to sit around for 5 hours before you get warm and get out there, right? You're supposed to pitch at 1, you end up pitching at 6. It's not the easiest day. And while I think he threw just at 100 pitches, give or take, he threw 5 2/3, so not the most innings that Corbin Burnes can bring you. Gave up 9 hits, but no walks. Okay, so still some base runners, but making them beat him, not allowing walks, which we see what can happen, a.k.a. Ryan Mountcastle walking to lead off the 9th. And 3 Ks, not the most overpowering stuff or strikeout stuff that day, but still finding a way to get outs because he only let up 2 earned. Okay, the home run was on Mike Baumann, who has struggled a little in this early season, but I'm still not too concerned. A lot of the days Baumann's pitched have been very tough weather days to pitch in. So let's see what happens. Give him another week or 2 and see how he's doing. But Corbin Burnes, this is why you bring him in, right? Because as the ace, you have to make sure the team stays in the game. You saw they didn't really hit much the night before and we lost. You saw that they're not hitting for you. At least when he went out to that 6th inning, they had 1 hit for him at that time. So you have to allow yourself to not be distracted by the failures of the team and still believe that you making sure this game stays close and you don't give up more runs or too many more runs keeps the team in it to allow a comeback on a game that's not looking good, is looking bleak, but isn't out of control at all and isn't out of reach at all. And we can go and grab that game at the end and make it a victory, which is what we did. Now, the other guy, Baumann, overall had a decent inning. Gave up the 1 hit, which was a home run, solo shot. He also gave up a walk, got a K in the full inning. Danny Colum, 1 1/3, no hits, no walks, 2 Ks. Great day by Danny Colum, who continues to be the stud lefty in the pen, which is necessary now, even more so with Cionel Perez down, at least for a little bit. And I don't think it'll be long, and we'll get to that soon. But we'll see. You never know with these obliques we talk about. So overall in that Royals series, we finished the series taking 2 of 3 again, staying right on pace. Again, we've talked about this multiple times. When we broke down the schedule, to me, there were 3 parts of it. You had the first 36, you had the middle 99, you had the last 27. And you might say that sounds very random, but it really isn't when you look at the opponents, when you look at the situations, when you look at the amount of days played in a row, stuff along those lines. Those are great ways to break it down. And when I looked at it, right, the first 36, again, were against mediocre opponents, just like the final 27 were. And if you win 2 out of every 3 in that first 36, come out 24-12. And in that back stretch, you finish 17-10 in the final 27. You only have to go 50-49 in that middle 99 to win 91-92 games. I think it was 91. But again, that's like the number to me that guarantees you are in the playoffs, that gives you a serious shot at the division. And if you can stay on pace in that first 36 for that, it gives you such a great opportunity, because the odds are, at least in my eyes, the Orioles are going to be much better than 50-49 in that middle 99. So that's when it brings in the division. That's when it brings in the top seed in the AL. Best record in baseball. Things along those lines. Okay? So, Orioles finish, like I said, that series 2-1. Overall, in the first 2 series, they finished 4-2. Right on the path of what we need, 24-12 in that first 36. So it's a great thing to see. It really is. And it's especially encouraging because while the record might not be like the best in baseball or even the best in the division, when you start looking at run differentials and stuff along those lines, it becomes very promising. Not only that, but I talked about looking at the individual performances for the 5 starters, each with 1, Burnes with 2. And you can see that if they can keep this going and then bring back Means and Bradish to take over whoever's struggling the most, like I talked about, this could be the best rotation in baseball, if not one of the best rotations in baseball. And either way is most likely the most undervalued rotation across all of baseball, even as it sits right now. That's how I feel. So you got to love what these birds are doing. 2 walk-off victories against the Royals, one on Monday, one on Wednesday, and just battling through maybe bad conditions and just, not the best games, not the best days that anyone's having. Now, certainly you'd like to see some guys pick it up, because some guys, let's say, I don't know, a Santander has had big moments and big home runs and some cool moments. He also, average-wise and on-base-wise, might not be where he's at. Now, that was just a small example. I haven't looked at the actual numbers, but there are certainly guys that can perform better. A lot of guys. In fact, I think that whole clubhouse feels as though they can be better. And so it's a great thing that they know they need to be better. They know they can be better. And yet they're still winning games despite the fact that they're not playing their best baseball. Because that's going to happen. It's a long season. 162 games plus the playoffs is a long, long, long season. So no need to panic. No need to worry. We're right where we need to be. Again, let them focus on them as far as other teams. We don't need to look at them. We don't need to care about them. We'll play who's in front of us and stay on pace with what we need to do. And we'll be successful, gang. Okay? Now, one of those guys to me that really needs to pick it up, the number one guy, really the only man on the roster right now that I am truly worried about and I believe is truly running out of time, is Ramon Urias. I talked about how in the past he could be an X factor for this ball club. I talked how the role players need to be an X factor. Well, Ramon Urias has yet to get a hit. I believe he's started 3 games, if not 4. It's a problem. He hasn't gotten a base hit yet. He's been on at least once, if not maybe 2 times with a walk. But it's not good so far, gang. And even his defense, we touched on last episode, is struggling. He misplayed a ball that wound up being the tying run in the game Kimbrel blew on Monday. He has already made another error in his 5 opportunities in the field. That's the thing that he needs to be sound on. Now, again, he started last season a little shaky defensively and turned it on after a couple weeks. And it only takes a couple hits to bring your average back to average, right? Like, I don't need you batting 360. I don't need you batting 300. I need you at least hitting 250 for me if you're going to be Ramon Urias. The way that you have guys on your heels and we have other options, I need you to perform. And I'm questioning if we're going to see that turnaround. I'm wondering if that's actually going to happen. Personally, I feel like good chance Ramon Urias might be gone in a week or 2, gang. And I'd hate to see it. I like the guy personally. I think he's a good player. He's been a fine player for us. But gosh, guys, golly, he has not looked good out there. Hopefully the off day yesterday rejuvenated his mind, got him in a better spot, and moving forward, now that they're in Pittsburgh or wherever they're going next, he can maybe get off the schneid and start getting some base knocks. Because he needs it. And he also needs to play good defensively. And I'm not calling for the man's job. I don't want that. But I want to see the Orioles be in the best position to succeed. And I'm starting to question whether Ramon Urias is the man to allow them to be in the best position. And part of that isn't even on Urias and how poorly he's played so far. Part of that is how strong Norfolk has been playing and these guys at Norfolk. I mean, so that's what I want to touch on next. We talked about already multiple times how impressive Norfolk players have been performing. And it's funny. It might seem like, oh, now that the season's here, he's going to talk minor leaguers every day. That's not my plan, gang. I truly am not planning on it. And the first day I'm like, oh, well, I wasn't planning on saying it, but, this happened, so I want to touch on some AAA guys. Oh, well, then the next day comes. Oh, they one-up themselves, and now a bunch of other guys, or they're doing even better things? Okay, well, now I need to talk about it. Well, when your AAA team, who's already been performing well and has a lot of guys knocking on the door, wins 26-11, you have to talk about it. 26 runs, gang. The most in an International League game since 2013. Not for the Tide, not for Norfolk, anyone in the International League since 2013, okay? Norfolk Tide club record of 8 home runs and 29 hits. These kids are knocking, banging, pounding this door down, man. And that's why I truly feel Ramon does not have much time left, because when I read you some of these stat lines, I already told you what their numbers were before this game. And I want to say there was a game before this where they were impressive too. And, gang, the Orioles prospect core is potentially the greatest grouping of baseball players that has ever been put together. That sounds insane, but when you add in the guys they've already promoted, Adley, Gunnar, Grayrod, like some of these bullpen names, Yanier Cano, Felix Bautista, like you bring up all these guys, there's not enough spots on the team, gang. So let's read through some of these stat lines from that 26-11 win, okay? Heston Kjerstad, 2 home runs, 10 RBIs, a club record. Stowers, 3 home runs, 7 RBIs. Oh, also Heston, I believe, had 2 home runs the day before also. So I had 4 home runs in that 2-game stretch. Again, club record 10 RBIs. Stowers 3 home runs, 7 RBIs. And he set the record for the Norfolk Tide for home run leader with 44 home runs as a Norfolk Tide. Just showing you, Kyle Stowers not only has gotten his seasoning in the minors, but is potentially getting to the point where what good's the minor leagues doing him at this point? Now, we don't necessarily have the spot to bring him up. That's the issue for him and us, but ultimately, very impressive, okay? Jackson Holiday, everyone's favorite, 4 for 6, 2 walks, 2 RBIs, 5 runs, also hit a leadoff home run the day before on Tuesday. Kobe Mayo, 5 for 7, a home run. 5 for 7, a home run shy of the cycle. So a single, double, and triple, at least one in his 5 hits. Connor Norby, who also went back-to-back with Jackson on Tuesday to lead off the game. On Wednesday, went 2 for 5, 2 walks, 3 RBIs, and a run. Gang, all of those players are major league ready. And Holiday, I think we all know it's 16 days, which we're already halfway through, right? So 16 days he has to be down there. I believe we're already halfway through until he comes and most likely replaces Tony Kemp. Now, maybe they decide, another week. But like the way he's hitting, there's almost no way you can keep him down past that 16 days. Hell, they might even just decide, screw the extra year, dude. Screw the next week. And again, it's only, I think, 7-8 days at this point, that more. So hopefully he's in the majors about this time next week. Maybe Saturday, Sunday of next week. Who knows? Kobe Mayo, though, not Kobe Mayo. Connor Norby, to me, is the one that's most pushing Ramon Urias out the door. Because he's another one that's had more seasoning in the minors than some of these guys, okay? And he's shown time and time and time again how special potentially of a player he is. And all he does is perform, truly. And he also has the similar positional profile that Ramon Urias provides the Orioles, okay? Between third base, second base. Connor, I'm pretty sure, can play short as well. So really, Connor Norby also plays corner outfield position. So he's the type of guy that, to me, is more or the most pushing Ramon Urias out the door. And I wouldn't be shocked, again, for Holiday and Norby to come up together. Because, again, Norby technically is still in that same idea of, gaining an extra year if you keep him down for 16 days. Now, it doesn't have all this publicity because nobody, for the most part, or nobody ever in the national media is even mentioning Connor Norby, let alone advocating him to make the opening day roster like they were Jackson Holiday. And I think the Orioles, like a lot of these franchises, like the idea of maybe bringing these guys up together so they're going through everything together for the first time. It's not as overwhelming, even though I'm not worried about Jackson Holiday, who grew up in a Major League clubhouse as a father who I believe is a Hall of Famer. He's prepared for everything he's going to face, right? Well, Connor Norby might not be as much. Maybe he's more. I'm not sure. Again, that's all personal. That's stuff about if you know them personally and the team does. I just think overall, even if you don't worry about that with either of them, it's still nice for them to have. Even on a team with guys they had just been with a couple weeks ago and guys they already came up the last couple years in the minors with, it's not as older veteran of a team as sometimes these prospects come up into. I love the idea of this time or in a couple days this time next week, right? Saturday, Sunday next week, maybe even Monday after the weekend, Holiday and Norby are in the majors. And we say goodbye to Tony Kemp and we say goodbye to Ramon Urias. That's what I think makes the most sense. I honestly think the Orioles wouldn't even do that this quickly. Coming into the season, once they made the decision who's on the roster, who's off the roster, and bringing in Tony Kemp, I think that personally they were not expecting these minor leaguers to perform at this level to the point that they're forcing their hand. I think they felt like, hey, these guys, they're going to perform well, hopefully, but just normally well, not abnormally well. And to the point that we can keep them for a month down in the minors, give Ramon a real chance, give Tony Kemp a real chance, figure it out. Hell, I think they were probably planning on Urias being here the whole year. They might be hoping that. But just like me, you can't help but have a little bit of doubt that Ramon Urias, the way he's playing, isn't best suited somewhere else. And replaced with Connor Norby. And then Jackson Holiday replaces Tony Kemp. And then looking at that team, knowing still Heston, Stowers, some of these other Mayo, some of these other guys are in the minors still. I mean, talk about get excited. That's something you get excited for. And it'll be awesome, hopefully next week or even the week after, when both those gentlemen are Baltimore Orioles. And I think it's coming. And if it's not, Ramon Urias and Tony Kemp better start hitting and better start playing real damn good baseball. Otherwise, there's no excuse to keep these kids off of this winning ball club. All right, so we're just going to quickly touch on the 3-game set against Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh 5-1 coming into the day. In fact, that was before last night's game that they won. So actually 6-1. I forgot to change that. I had the asterisk that reminded me, but I forgot to put it in. So 6-1, okay? 4 against Miami, 3 against Washington. So not good teams that they're facing. And probably overachieving, especially because they are the type of team that I believe needs to bring up another of their top 1, 2, 3 prospects to really hit their stride as far as a team like the Orioles a couple years ago that is very, very dangerous. Still, though, they have a lot of good players. We're going to see guys like Henry Davis, a former number 1 overall pick for them. Very special player, I believe, that's only improving. O'Neal Cruz, another one of the most fascinating players in Major League Baseball. Just this really tall, lanky, but like powerful and fast shortstop. Very special player, right? In fact, I'm calling it now. He has at least 1 home run against us in this series, possibly tonight. And one of the other names that I'm going to touch on is Jones that we're facing tonight. I forget the first name, John Jones or something along those lines. Something basic, I believe. Something with a J, I want to say. Neither here or there. Jones is a rookie coming off of his only start previously. Was a good one. He looked very impressive in that first start, to which I'm expecting him to look pretty impressive again tonight, even against a scary lineup. Now, maybe not as impressive because the first one he pitched was against Miami, who has been pitiful this year. So expect for him to get a little hit up at some point tonight. Maybe not for crazy numbers, but he's going up against Gray Rod, yet another of the elite young starters in our league. I really hope Gray Rod gets this one because the Orioles, again, need to consistently be winning 2 out of 3. And just winning the first game of the series means everything. I want to think after 2 tough days at the plate for these Orioles, even with getting a victory in the one, heck, really 3 tough days if you want to talk about it at the plate. I want to say then on the road trip, sometimes that triggers something positive in your mind and you get away from everything. You get away from the city for a little. You go on the road to Pittsburgh. You refresh your mind. You have that off day. I want to think these Orioles are going to come out and hit a little tonight. I really do. I could see Pittsburgh hitting Gray Rod a little bit as well. We'll see how it goes. Hopefully, Gray Rod and these Orioles can take the opener tonight. Next one, though, is Tyler Wells versus Falter. Falter got shelled a bit in his first start, so hoping that trend continues, and I hope to see the Tyler Wells that I know he can be, the dominating starter. Either way, if nothing more, even if he goes 5, maybe 6, I hope Tyler Wells keeps men off of base like he typically does and doesn't give up many runs and allows the Orioles to maybe take the series in that second game if they can take these next 2. Either way, that's the game. That's the game to me that I'm pinpointing more than any of the 3 that the Orioles are going to win. That second game. That's why to me this first one, even more so than usual, is so important to get. And then the last one is Dean Kremer versus Marco Gonzalez, longtime veteran, had his ups, had his downs. We'll see how he pitched well his first start as well, but I'm interested. Kremer also didn't look the best on his first start, so it's going to be interesting that last game. Hopefully the Orioles can be up 2-0 in the series, and that be more of a getaway day that maybe, doesn't go our way. Either way, I'm hoping that we get 2 of the 3 in Pittsburgh. Should be a good series, should be an entertaining series. I'm very excited about that one. Last thing I think we're going to talk about is Cionel Perez, who we know had that oblique injury, went on the IL for 15 days minimum. There were some talks. Not sure if he'll be ready after the 15, if it'll need to be extended another one. We'll see how he's responding. Well, still a lot of that's unknown. However, they are planning on having him starting to throw soon, which is a great sign because he's only been hurt a few days. So making sure he stays in the process, ramped up. We don't need him to force his way back, but if he's feeling better and we're encouraged by the signs, continuing to make sure his arm doesn't fall out of shape in those 2 weeks, right? Which it wouldn't fall completely out of shape, but you still don't want him. You want him to stay on schedule if you can, for the most part, best you can. And so hopefully Cionel Perez is back at the end of that first 15-day stint. And it's encouraging signs, and I think that he will. So, gang, very excited for this Pirates series. Very excited to see how these Orioles continue to succeed. And hoping to be encouraged again by this offense. Because we know those first 2 games, they put up so many runs. And then the last 4, I feel like they haven't. Even though they've won some of them, like, still, I feel like they haven't necessarily hit the way that they're capable of. They haven't fully hit their stride. These guys haven't fully reached their best baseball. And that's what I think's coming for these Orioles. So big game coming just in about 2 hours, let's call it. Very excited for this whole weekend, gang. And I'm looking forward, to just seeing what these Orioles got in the tank. All right, guys? So with that, we're just going to call the episode a little early today. Again, coming off of an off day, not the most to talk about. Nothing big breaking news happened. So just wanted to fill you in on the past couple days. And remember, we might not have episodes every day, but make sure you check because we are absolutely ramping up ourselves and just getting in the swing of things. And once, some of these multiple off days in a week throw us off here and there, a holiday, this, that, we're looking to get out episodes every day, if not just about every day, right? Maybe, again, coming off of an off day, usually we might not have an episode. But since we didn't have an episode the day or so prior, wanted to make sure we jumped on, filled you in. Either way, gang, Talkin Orioles Baseball Podcast is your place to be for just Orioles banter and getting, expanding the thoughts of what's going on with this team, breaking down what's happened. Make sure you like and subscribe, comment, do whatever you need to. Again, we are going to continue to ramp up and build this thing. It's going to become a big brand in Birdland. I promise you that. In fact, when I was down there for opening day, I was telling some people, you're going to go back in 20, 30 years and tell people about the day you met me and you talked Orioles baseball with me. And they're not going to believe you, but you're going to know it's true. And you caught me before the fame, caught me before the fandom. Promise you, gang, it's coming. That I promise you. And we're not going anywhere. We're going to continue sitting here talking Baltimore Orioles baseball with the best of them. So until next time, gang, this was the Talkin Orioles Baseball Podcast. Let's go, O's.
Talking baseball, baseball in the